now it's working. So we'll come back to another Angular episode. I'm starting to get really tired of Angular actually. Not Angular per se, but just front end. And it's the part that I don't like in coding, so that's why I'm putting a lot of time into it. I mean, we even deleted the Java Spring Boot segment because I think I'm already way ahead compared to my front end skills. But last time we discovered something that's actually good, which is making our own front end, but we are starting from the fetching data instead of thinking about the components, if that makes sense. So what do we have here in our to-do list? We have what are observables, asynchronous data, but before that we need to revise what we did yesterday. So we discovered the add injectable, and then the provide in root. I think that's a default thing that we'll have to do, because okay, we forgot to write the constructor here. We will have here a constructor, and we are doing what, employee management or something like that. So it was around here. Yes, the private HTTP client thing is permanent, so that's the default setting that we need for our service. Employee.service.ts. Do we have the annotation right? Nope. Let's rename it. .service.ts. Actually, is there a difference between, I think it's a normal file and a service file? In Angular, is there a reason to why we write? Okay, my keyboard writing skill is off today. Why we write employee.service.ts instead of employee but service.ts. That's the way I'm actually used to from the backend part. In Angular, naming convention for files like service is typically used to case, okay, with the dash, for the file name, such as employee.service.ts rather than camel case. So we have a camel case type of writing, and we have kebab case with hyphens, sure. So it's just for readability, not functionality. For readability, not functionality. Okay, so we are good. We will compare the second part later, but we know, yeah, we did discover that JavaScript, for some reason, they write a private inside a parameter, which is disgusting, but I mean, okay. Private HTTP, and the type will be HTTP client. I think it's like that, yes. I'll probably need to check. Private HTTP client. We will not call it CRUD service, actually. We should rename it to employee. Not sure what's happening. Employee. Yes. Now why is it not working? We have that injectable. Okay, let's check the error here. Implementation is missing. Okay, because we need to implement it. Sure, I guess. So that part will come to later. Now for the actual first thing that we need to do, which is observable. In context of creating a service employee in Angular. What does an observable mean? In Angular, there's a core concept, especially when dealing with asynchronous operation like HTTP requests, event handling, or data streams. Okay. When creating a service, employee service, you might use observable to handle things like fetching employee data from an API. An observable is essentially a stream of values that can be asynchronous. It is part of the ReactiveX library with Angular relies on heavily. So it is exclusive for Angular. So it's exclusive to Angular. Can you explain this line in more details? An observable is a stream. I need to make sure that first of all I remember the stream meaning of Java correctly, and to see if there is a difference between the stream in Java and the streams in JavaScript. Use voice.
Hey, what's up? Feel free to ask me about it.
Okay, never mind. This concept comes from reactive programming, and the key idea is that observable represents a sequence of events. Yeah, a better word would be values. So something like an array that are emitted over time. So it's something like an array that gets values added through it through time. You can think of a stream of data similar to how you might watch a river flow. The water flows continuously and you can interact with it at any point in time. Okay. Stream of values. A stream here means continuous flow of values. So it's referring to the values that you get from the database that it keeps on flowing. So the source is your backend and the end is the front end. So that's why it's called the stream, because there is no fixed value for the data that you're getting, at least from the first request. So you don't get and save it, you get it and you work with it at the same time. In traditional programming, you often deal with a single values at a time, like when you get a response from a function with an observable. You can receive a sequence of values. Imagine a stream of data that consists of the following employee names. In this case, the observable emits each of these names at one time. Yeah, so that's what it meant. Asynchronous means that the values aren't available immediately. Okay, asynchronous means that the data is not finished or it's not available at a whole. You're getting it piece by piece. So it is like the streams in Java, but the streams in Java we mostly use it for handling files, because the way that Java read files, they read it as asynchronous. Asynchronous. You don't have to wait for all the data to be available before you can start processing. Okay. Think of HTTP requests in Angular. When you make a request, the result doesn't come back instantly. Yes, that's the point we're talking. Over time, we understand that. Imagine you're sitting next to a stream of water. The stream is observable. Okay, now let's get back to the definition to see what it actually means, because now we understood what definition. Observer is an stream, okay, of values that can be synchronized over time. So his observable are what an HTTP response will look like usually. Now let's look at the code here. What do we have? We have public get employees, that's the get request. The two dots here, I think it refers to the return type. And the return type will be of any. It's not a good practice, but I see the meaning of it. And then you have return this dot HTTP. This means the constructor here that we did. Dot get is part of the HTTP methods or functions. Get, and anything that comes, we will say any, and this dot API server URL. That part is the one that I'm not getting.
Here and into the app folder, I'm going to create a new file, and I'm just going to call it employee.ts. And then inside here, I'm just going to do export interface.
I think this is the part where he does the interface. Yeah, just the interface. We will get to the interface part at a second right now, but we need to check how to write the injectable and the service first. So you have two classes, the interface and then you have the service. So get employees, we are getting a list or array in this case. Okay, this part is the one that I'm not getting, but we understand now what is observable, which is a stream of data that's coming from the backend. That's asynchronous. Now, what is, we also finished asynchronous data by that definition also. What is left is event handling. In this context, what is event handling? Event handling refers to the process of responding to events that occur during the lifetime of the application. These events can include things like user interactions, HTTP requests. So the event is the broader term compared to what we just discussed. I forgot the name again. Observables, yes. So anything that happens, click is considered an event. Yes, that's the only part of event that I know. So it's any asynchronous data and any interaction. So anything that changes the status of our app. Event handling often means listening to UI events such as click and reacting to them by using observable. Angular allows you to handle events in a more functional and declarative way, making the code easier to manage, especially when dealing with complex asynchronous actions. Key concept: instead of using traditional method like add listener to handle the events, you can use observable to listen for events. This can bring more consistent way to manage manipulative events. Still, we are not that far off with what we are doing, but okay. So how do I get request from backend? From the HTTP client, yes. Import HTTP client in your module. This is the app module. I think it means the app component. app.model.ts. I don't think we have that. App. Nope, we don't have that. So forget about this step for now. It's the injectable, and then we have here the URL. Now the method. Use the service component. This is how usable before using it. Or actually, we can also check the using part, at least for now. Employee list component implements on it. How does it implement on it? On it is a lifecycle hook that is called when the component is initialized. Okay, so that's a thing that we don't know, the init part. And he's creating here a list of employees. Then he has the error message ready. And he is creating not an abstract class, but an actual class. This employee.getEmployees.subscribe, also that thing we don't know. This handles the employee data when it's received, and then the dot or else if there is an error message. And this is how we show it in the HTML part. Okay, let's check something else. There seems to be a bit more on the implementation side that we don't know. But for now, let's get that. Explain this line to me in more details. Method declaration, yes, get employees, that's the name of the method, we know that part. The return type, so okay, so that's what I was going to say. So this is the return type, and it's an observable. The method returns an observable that will emit an array of employees. Observable seems like, okay, it seems like a wrapper. Observable seems too familiar to wrappers inside Java, like optional, because both of them give array at the end, and both of them are written in a similar fashion actually. We need to check what is meant by promises. While there are clear differences, these concepts also share the goal of handling asynchronous or potentially absent. I mean, with optional, yes, it does give stream, but I don't think I used it in that way. It is an option, but I never used stream before because I'm just too weak at that part yet. But it is a way to deal with asynchronized data or potentially absent one, yes. Okay, let's get back. So my intuition was correct about that part. So okay, then we have the name of the method, we have the observable, and then we are getting a list of properties. Nothing too flashy here. And then we have the return, this .http, we are referring to the one that we did in the constructor. .get is the name of one of the methods inside the HTTP client class that we did. But I'm not sure what does it do though. This tells Angular to perform HTTP GET request to retrieve data. GET is a method in on the HTTP client that makes GET requests to a specific URL. It returns an observable that emits response, yes. And I guess that's the type of GET request you're requesting. This is a type annotation. It tells TypeScript that the response, okay, it's a TypeScript thing, not a JavaScript thing. Okay, never mind. Type checking, as it allows the development environment to check. So this is just to check if the response is an array or not. And employee indicates the server is expected to return an array of objects, and we did the interface to make sure that each object consists of these things. And now we have this API URL. This is the URL which the GET request. But why did you use the word this when you could have just mentioned the variable name? Okay. Why did you mention the API by this, not just only by the name? It was intentional to demonstrate a more flexible maintaining approach to working with the backend endpoints. Okay. By storing the API URL in a variable, you can easily change. Yes, you can easily change. But why the word this? That's not my question. I meant why in the GET request you didn't just say variable name, but also specified it with this. I think I know the reason why, but I need to make sure. You're asking that this keyword is used in TypeScript. This keyword refers to the current instance of the class. This is necessary to access properties. But I mean, always when you're working with an object and you're referring to the object within the same class, you should probably use this. Okay, so now you have to specify, because if you didn't, there is no such variable inside the method, so it will say an error. Okay, that's different a bit from how Java worked, but okay. So I get. So after that you create private API URL, and it will be font type string, HTTP local host 8080, and then you create your get method. You say get employees, then you specify the type of observable. It has the wrapper thingy, or brackets I should say, and then you say employee from type array. And since we are at it, we might just create a new file and we call it employee.this. Public interface employee. Wait, will check for the errors later, but for now, public interface and employee. What else? Usually say something like ID from type string, from type number, sorry, name from type string, and so forth and so on. I mean, there is a return type, so I'm not sure if we should specify that part also. Return this .http.get and what does the get method takes? So we called for this one. I think, yeah, it does call this .api URL.
And email, you're gonna have attribute to call it employee.
It's get any, not sure about the any part though. I think this one was custom made, that's why. And it wasn't custom made, it actually was made by the website itself. So let's get to a place where we have it ready. So you say get and the type that you are getting. So you have to specify the type of the get and then where it is getting it from. So we say employee. Actually handling the HTTP is pretty simple now. We should be checking the implementation now. I'll see what he does here first.
And then inside here, I'm just gonna do export interface employee.
So it's not public, it's export.
Curly braces.
I see, that's why. Export.
And here, I'm just gonna define all of the attributes that employee's gonna have. So they're gonna have an ID, and that's gonna be a number. They're gonna have a name, and that's gonna be a string. They're also gonna have an email. Hopefully, I can remember everything that I said in the backend. And I remember job title, so the title, and this is also a string. And they have a phone, which is a string. Image URL, which is also a string. And then they have an employee code.
Did my mouse go? Okay.
I think this is everything that we set in the back, and then we can come back and change this if we forgot something. And
okay, job title, phone, email, and we set from type string. We also have phone, also from type string. Employee title, it's also from type string. Employee title or job title, it's a better way to do it actually. Image URL and employee code, okay. Image URL, it's also from string, employee code, that's also a string, I think. I'm not sure about that one yet.
This is also a string.
Okay, he did type it as a string also.
So this represents the type of data that's going to be returning whenever we make those calls to the backend, because we're just technically mirroring what an employee looks like in the backend. So I'm just going to copy this and close it and collapse this. So now we can say, hey, this is going to return unobservable of employee.
Yeah, it's not, even though you can write any, it's just not considered best practice to do.
Just passing it like this and make sure we import employee from our class. And then down below, we can pass in the same type as well. It's explicitly clear what type of data that this is returning, which is unemployed.
Yeah, employee. For some reason it says error. The constructor here seems to be working. I think we should import the employee, that's why. Import employee. Okay, so we, unlike in Java where everything that you make public is available, you have to actually specify it here. It leaves an issue with the constructor, which I'm not sure about really. I think it's the syntax, yes. Constructors, even though it's empty, this should be here, the this dot http equals to the other http part, but since we are not doing that, we are making it auto-generated with the injection, but we still have to make the brackets.
Array from a JavaScript perspective or from a Java perspective, that's just going to be a list or any type of collection. So I'm just going to go ahead and copy this and go down here and then paste it. And this is going to be add employee. And for this, it's going to take the actual employee that we're adding. So I'm going to do employee, and that's going to be of type employee, which is our type that we just created. And this is going to return just one employee. So I'm going to remove those brackets.
And
here
it's
we
post.
just have to pass in the employee. So the URL, the base URL, which is this part of the URL, is going to be the same, but this time it's going to go into employee.add. And then we have to pass in the payload, which is just the employee that we received, which can be a second argument. And then here we just have to change this method from get to post, which is why it's complaining.
Okay. Okay, so the post one, it takes two, one for the URL and one for the actual value. So we say here, just add, and it's just one employee, and we are getting a variable called employee from type employee. How about we make it small here because it's not a class. Yes. And then we return an employee, and the URL here will also be employee, and it's a post request. Okay, so we did the get, but we did the get all first and then the posts. Then we should have the update. The update one should be similar to that one.
This is how we're gonna make the post request to this URL and then pass in the payload and the body so that we can add that employee into the application in the backend. And I'm gonna duplicate this one more time. I'm gonna go down here, I'm gonna scroll up a little bit. And this one is going to be to update an employee. So I'm gonna change this to update. And it's gonna,
it should be similar actually.
Employee, it's gonna return an employee, and it's gonna go to update instead of add. So we're gonna change this to update, and of course in the body of the request we're passing the employee to be updated.
So yeah, it is the same thing.
And also we have to change this from a post to a put because
yeah, that's the only difference between post and put actually. Let me see here, update, everything is the same. We put here the put, and the URL for now I'm not changing. I will plan to change it, but I'll do the front end part before the backend because I'll try to do the backend myself.
we're updating the data. And I'm gonna duplicate this one more time.
Actually, maybe I should just do it that way for now. So this is the actual URL. Instead of having this API here, we will make the $sign, and then you add curly braces and then the variable name. API URL. And then outside of it, I think, not completely outside, but yes. I forgot the name of what we are doing here, but I'll check for that also later. Now we have this one for add, and this one for update. This one, I think it was called get, but I'm not sure.
Into the app.
Just employee then, or okay.
Application in the backend.
We have to specify, we say here all. Before it, I think we should add, either we add it here or we add it up actually. No, now thinking about it, it would look ugly if I just did it up. Employee. Okay, way better.
And I'm gonna duplicate this one more time. I'm gonna go down here.
Now for the last one, which is the delete. Delete. And I think everything will stay the same. We'll specify which employee we want to delete. And then I think we should be also giving a response back that we are deleting a certain employee. So there should be a response as employee, but I'm not sure. It could be also of type void. Depends. Yes. If we put the delete, it says the return here because it doesn't need any type of return. Okay. The return type is the one. It's either they will return either a string or the actual class.
A little bit. And this one is going to be to update an employee. So I'm going to change this to update. Put function. And to do an employee, we need to pass in the actual employee ID. So I'm going to do employee ID. And the type for this is going to be a number.
Okay. It's employee ID, and it will be from type number.
And whenever we delete an employee, we don't send any response back in the response body. We just send back the whole HTTP response with the status. So in this case, we can just say this is going to return void. And then we can change.
Okay. I was going to say void, but I wasn't sure how to make the observable of void.
This to delete. And then, of course, we're not passing in this. We're just adding this ID.
A function whose dictate is neither undivided for or any must return a value. Okay, because I forgot to put in the return again. Type observable employee. Yeah, I forgot to mention here that's also here from type void. Yes, now we are finished with actually making fetch requests to the backend
as part of the URL itself. So here we can just go to the delete route and then / that employee ID, and we can just pass this by just passing in the $, open and close curly braces, and then pass in the employee ID here.
And that's how you get the ID that you're searching for in that employee ID, I think, not just ID.
As part of the URL. So this is pretty much everything. And as you can see, this is just a clear mirroring of whatever we have in the backend. So we can get all the employees by passing in a get request to that specific URL, which is employee/all, and then update, add and delete. So we can now use all those functions in our component so that we can update our.
Now, how can he dynamically actually make it? Because he'll take a list
UI appropriately depending on.
And it's not like he's sorting it somewhere, so, or saving it rather.
On what action the user is taking in the UI. There's something I want to show you, and this is the CLI page on angular.io/CLI, and this is the page on Angular or the Angular website that is dedicated to the CLI. So if you go on this page, you can see everything that you can actually do with the CLI, and you just saw that we just did this, ran these 3 commands, and what I want to do now is to generate the service that I need. So if you scroll down a little bit, you'll see this table, and on this table you can see all the different commands that you can use, and you can click on them to see more details about them. So I'm going to click on the generate because I'm trying to generate a new service or anything else. And if you scroll down a little bit, you can see
generate a shell, enums, library, interface.
Everything here that we can actually generate. So we can use this generate here with any of those arguments here. So what I want to do is to create a service. So I'm going to go down here and click on service. You can see it gives me the actual command. So I can do ng generate service and then pass in the name of the service with some options.
Oh, I should probably check that. Website/CLI.
So I'm just going to copy this and then go back to my terminal. And I'm going to stop the server for a second and I'm going to clear this. And here I'm just going to pass in this command and then I'm going to give this a name. So I'm going to call it employee. So what the Angular CLI is going to do is do employee.service. It's going to add the service to this. So before I run this, there's something else I want to show you. So if you scroll down here.
Wait, is this how he created the service that we just managed?
If you want to skip tests, we can set this skip test, options to be true or false. So I don't want to have any tests. So I'm going to copy this because I don't want to generate the test file. And then I'm going to delete all this. So that way it won't create the spec file or the test file. So I'm going to go ahead and run this. As you can see now, the CLI went ahead and created this file, which is employee.service.ts, and it didn't create a spec file, which I don't need. So at this point, I can just do code and then a dot, and this is going to open Visual Studio Code. So now I have Visual Studio Code open, and I'm just going to navigate to the service. I'm going to go into the source and the app, and then here's the employee service.ts file. So in this file, what we need to...
Did they swap the tutorials? Because I think he should add this one, the first part.
We need to create some function that can actually reach to the backend to do some work for us.
Yeah, I think the video is missing that part. Is anyone even talking about it? Ah, okay. It's already mentioned. It should have come earlier, yes.
We'll have a function to add an employee.
Well, I mean, we managed to study it either way, just through ChatGPT, but I want to check what he's actually saying also about it.
Employee, update an employee, delete an employee, and etc. So to do this, we need to have some way to make HTTP requests. And the way to do this in Angular is to use something called the HTTP client. And this is a built-in HTTP client that we can use to make HTTP requests. And we can just inject it in the service so that we can use it. So that's exactly what we're going to be doing. So I'm going to go on here and I'm just going to do private and I'm going to call it HTTP and it's going to be
okay. Where is my JavaScript hit list? Private HTTP client.
You have type HTTP client.
Actually, let me specify also that this is a constructor.
And make sure this is imported. This is supposed to come from Angular command.http.
Okay.
So once we have access to this HTTP client, we can actually start making HTTP requests to the backend. So I'm gonna create a first function. I'm gonna do public, and I'm gonna call it get employees, so that I can get a list of all the employees. Of course, this function is not gonna take any parameters, and it's gonna increase the client HTTP that types of the backend. And I'm just gonna call it API this string for now. We're gonna put that URL later. It's supposed to be made. And again, then pack Java for this and things. So if I don't need we have this service. Now we can go ahead and use it in our component. So let's go to the
Component part.
component.ts, which is this file. The first thing I want to do is to define a variable that's going to hold all of our employees whenever we get them back. So I'm going to do public, and this is public because it's going to be used in the
across. Yeah, I've seen some people create an entire new folder just to store all the information that's coming from the backend.
HTML file, and by default it's public, so you don't necessarily have to say public. I'm just coming from a strongly typed language, so I like to put all my access modifier, but you don't necessarily have to do this. So I'm going to call this employees because it's going to hold all of the employees coming from the backend, and I'm going to give it a type of employee array. And I do this by passing in those brackets here, and I need to import employee, and that's coming from our class. Now I can go down below and create another function that I can use to call our service. So to do this, we're going to need to inject this service in this class as well, the same way that we did inject the HTTP client, as you can see here, inside of this class. I'm just going to go ahead and copy this and go back here, and in the constructor, I'm going to put a new line. I'm going to call in the employee service. So I'm going to call it employee service.
And classes here are a bit different than Java. Interface is it's not about constructor rather than classes. Classes in Java versus classes in JavaScript.
And that's going to be of type employee service. And of course, we need to import that from our service. So make sure you import employee service from wherever your service is. So now we have access to the service because we just injected it into this app component. So what we can do, we can create another function. So I'm going to do public. I'm going to call it get employees. And it's not going to accept any parameters, and it's going to return void. And what I want,
it's not returning anything because it's just saving everything back to the employee variable that we just created. Should be at least.
Function is to call our service. So I can do this employee service that get employees. And since this is an observable, so it's going to make a request over the internet or over the network, and this is going to take some time. That's why it's returning an observable.
So the employee service is the one that we created, but I'm not sure about why it's called this. Okay, he's talking about the constructor. Okay, makes sense. And it's of type employee service. I think the one we created, but I'm not sure yet. Do we have a class here that's called employee service? I mean, it's called employee.service, but okay, the class here is employee service. Never mind.
So we need to subscribe to that observable.
And get employees is the method mentioned here.
So after we call the function, we have to call subscribe so that we can be notified whenever some data comes back from the server.
Yeah, the subscribe thing is also new.
Either that could be the actual variable. So after we call the function, we have to call subscribe so that we can be notified whenever some data comes back from the server. Either that could be the actual employees that we requested or some kind of an error. And here, I'm just going to specify our response. I'm going to say if we get a response back, which is going to be of type employee array, because that's what it's going to be.
Exactly.
Execute some piece of code here. And what we want to do is to set this variable that we define up top to be equal equal to the body of the request, because by default, using an observable, it's just gonna give you whatever response is coming back inside of that body of the response. So we can set this equal to response, which is gonna be the list or array of all of our employees. Otherwise, which in this case of an error, we also have to handle that. So in case we get an error, which is gonna be of type HTTP error, and then we have to import that. So in case it's an HTTP error response, what we want to do is execute a different.
That's messy. I never seen a parameter that takes two arrow functions. That's new.
Piece of code. In that case, I can just send an alert or just console log it to the console, and I can just console that error message.
So we have the parameter of the subscribe is two methods. Forget about variables or anything, and just methods.
You can just access the error object, and then there's a message that I can access here. So we can just see it as an alert. So now we can see that this component will have all the employees in it whenever we call this function. So we can use this variable inside of the template, because as you can see, it is the template for this specific component, which means it's communicating directly with this component. So we can access this variable inside of this HTML file. So we need to be able to call this function whenever this component is loaded or whenever it's initialized. And one way we can do this is to just implement an interface called onInit. So I'm going to do implement, it's called onInit. And then once we implement onInit, which is coming from Angular core, then we need to override a function called ng-onInit. So I'm going to go right below the constructor, and I'm going to do ng-onInit. It doesn't take any parameters. And all I have to do now is to call our function inside of this ng-onInit, because it's going to run whenever this component is initialized. So I can do this, get employees, and that's just the name of our function down below. So now whenever this component is initialized, it's going to call this function, and this function in turn is going to call our function that we just defined down here, and then it's going to set our employee.
It's not as difficult as the first time I saw it, but still too many questions to answer.
Employees whenever we get the response back from the server. And if we get an error, then we're just going to send an alert to show that error to the user. So now I can go into the component where we have all of our HTML, and we don't need all this stuff. This is just the default that came with Angular. And all I want to do now is to just define some div. So I'm going to do div. And inside of this div, I can just use ng-for so that I can loop on all of the actual employees that I'm getting from the backend. So I can just do ng-for and then set this equal to let employee, which is going to be a local variable of employees, which is the variable coming from the actual component. So then it's going to loop over every single one of those employees and save each one of them in a variable called employee. So
yeah, that's too much. Now we went to the HTML part, but
it's called onInit, an interface.
where should we start with this mess? So inside the app component, we created an array of public, which is automatically public, but we just write it because we are used to writing public. And then we are making a constructor after. There seems to be too much information actually in this part. And what we are only like part inside, just part. Let me check promises and subscribe. Specifically to that part, there seems to be more actually. The export and other stuff we will do, but not now. My brain is getting fried actually from this. We stopped here. I'll have to check ahead just to see what else, what type of shock also we are getting in the future. So that's the main class that we did before.
In another domain or
that's the back end, especially for the authorization part. Bootstrap. Haven't seen Bootstrap in a while. How did he save the images though in the backend? And all of this is copied from Bootstrap. Actually, only 20 minutes and the rest is testing. I mean, I haven't done the testing for the backend first to check the testing for the front end. Seems like the rest of the video is about testing. Service class, handling exception, exposing the API REST controller, testing with Postman, testing with HTTP PI, service part 2, Angular component. This is where we stopped. Class configuration, UI intro, model logic. We stop at the 450 actually, 54. That's when we start the testing. And then we have a forum. And then we add the update functionality, delete, and search. I mean, adding functionality after you finish. Yes, more or less actually. Seems like we found finally a good tutorial to go through. The Angular component. He did everything in the main component since it's the gateway to the, what is it? To the index HTML. We have the app component here. But it doesn't want to be served though. This command is not available. I have to see the inside the thing first. What's the project name again? Employee manager app. And then you serve. They should make it to automatically go inside the folder once you have done that part, but okay. Where is the Angular part? Okay, that part is working. Where is the index component HTML? Let's see. Delete everything. The back is empty. The page is empty. I think I'll have to make another copy just for the next part only. It shouldn't be as hard as the part before it. And how much? At 27. Yeah, 20 minutes of new content should be the part that we are missing for our app. I'll be back. Give me a second.
We have
more suffering. I think I took a bit of time to actually make a copy, but we are here now.
Now we can go ahead and use it in our component. So let's go to the component.ts, which is this file.
Okay, we start from the beginning.
The first thing I want to do is to define a variable that's going to hold all of our employees whenever we get them back. So I'm going to do public, and this is public because it's going to be used in the HTML file, and by default it's public, so you don't necessarily have to say public. I'm just coming from a strongly typed language.
It seems like this is everyone's case. Everyone who's working in the backend is doing the front end, but it's rarely the case where I see someone who work in the front end work in the backend. But
So I like to put all my access modifier, but you don't necessarily have to do this. So I'm going to call this employees because it's going to hold all of the employees coming from the backend, and I'm going to give it a type of employee.
so step one, actually before we continue this, there is a question that has been in my mind. My friends did make a Chrome extension using Java. How do you make a Chrome extension? Creating a Chrome extension involves various steps. Create a folder, you will store all your extension files. Create a manifest files, create a pub HTML, JavaScript, local. Okay, never mind. A bit off topic.
And I do this by passing in those brackets here, and I need to import employee, and that's coming from our class. Now I can go down below and create another function.
So first step, storing all the employees in an array. So you first create the variable for that, and then you start them.
To call our service. So to do this, we're gonna need to inject this service in this class as well, the same way that we did inject the HTTP client, as you can see here inside of this class. I'm just gonna go ahead and copy this and go back here, and in the constructor, I'm gonna put a new line. I'm gonna call in the employee service. So I'm gonna call it employee service.
It feels weird because we are not actually making an abstract class, but we are actually making the class itself. Instead of using the new keyword and all the stuff, we're actually making it manually, which is a bit weird to do now. Component.ts. So the first step is to create an array, make it public, but we don't need to. Employee, and it's from type employee, and we say it's an array. Has no initializer. Public employees. Okay, because I didn't name it the same name as the class, that's why. And it's employee array. Public employees, employee, and there seems to be an issue with that. Has not in Azure and has not been defined, and we inserted employee from employee though. Anyway, next we create the constructor for this class, and it will take employees from type. Actually, no, it will take the service with everything inside of it, and the service should give HTTP client as a response. No, okay, we are creating a constructor that takes employee service, and the employee service is a variable of type HTTP client. Okay, that one should be private. Again, constructors, employee service from type HTTP client. I think there is an import that's missing. Or no? Okay, never mind.
And that's going to be of type employee service.
Okay, so we created a constructor for the app component, and it only takes employee service as instance variable to create not the construct, to create the class itself.
And of course, we need to import that from our service.
Okay, but it's not okay. That's the puzzling part I was thinking about. It's not part. It's not an HTTP client, but rather an employee service. Service. What is the name here? Just copy that name here. Employee. Same name, but we just make it an E. Okay, forget about this part. We need to import it somewhere. I think he imported it. He doesn't have an import, no. Yes, the only reason why it's not working is because we haven't imported the employee service. Then we have here employees. There should be another import somewhere for that part also. Property employees has no initializer. I think we have to import the employee also. Okay, we already did that part. Property employees has no initializer and is not definitely assigned in the constructor. Okay.
So make sure you.
There seems to be an issue with that. So we create an array to hold all the information we are getting, and we are calling for the service to get that information.
You import employee service from wherever your service is.
Okay, yeah, that's the part I was missing.
So now we have access to the service because we just
Why is the first part missing?
Just file. I'm gonna do public, and this is public because it's gonna be used in the
yes.
By default, it's public, so you don't necessarily have to say it's public. I'm just coming from a strongly typed language, so I like to put all my access modifier, but you don't necessarily have to do this. So I'm gonna call this employees. It's gonna hold all of the employees coming from the backend, and I'm gonna give it a type of employee array. And I do this by passing in those brackets here, and I need to import employee, and that's coming from our class.
You need to import employee, which I think I did. But the issue I'm getting is with the variable, not with the import.
Now I can go down below and create another function that I can use to call out.
Okay, we will leave it like this for now.
Service.
And we check the list later.
So make sure you import employee service from wherever your service is. So now we have access to the service because we just injected it into this app component. So what we can do, we can create another function. So I'm going to do public. I'm going to call it get employees.
So this is where we implement all the methods from the employee service.
It's not going to accept any parameters, and it's going to return void. And what I want to do inside of this function
is to get all the employees and save it to the array here.
And is to call our service. So I can do this.
Dot employee service dot get
employees. And since this is an observable, so it's gonna make a request over the internet or over the network, and this is gonna take some time.
So that's why you need to make an or else function basically if there is an error.
Returning an observable, so we need to subscribe to that observable. So after we call the function, we have to call subscribe so that we can be notified whenever some.
So yes, that's the dot subscribe thing that we didn't get. What does the dot subscribe do? Method is a crucial part of working with observable. Especially method is used to subscribe to an observable, which means you're telling the observable to start emitting values and performing its operation. When you subscribe to an observable, you're essentially saying start listening to the observable and start processing any data of any and then emitted. So basically it's the start button. successful callback, on error, and on completion. So this part it's 3, not just 1. Starts and tells Angular to begin listening to the observable. Breaking down the subscribe method. Success callback, first parameter, error callback, and then completion. So it's 3. Employee, console.fetch employees, and then we have error. So you have either the result with the message. These are the 2 parameters except for the last one. So by just getting the observable isn't enough. We need to specify that we need to listen. So even though we said the return type is observable, it doesn't automatically give us the list. We have to subscribe. Okay, I get that more or less. And after we subscribe, we get how many methods? 3. Well, one on successful code, which is the first one, and the second one is on error, and the third one on a call. Actually, let's try to make it on our one. So we say get employees, and we say it gives us a list of employee. Actually, there's no return type. We said it's void since it's just saving it to the mention. And is there a way for us to get information? I don't think so. Do we need anything? No. So it's just from type void. Let's say this dot employee serve dot get employee. We say dot subscribe. Then we have a couple of methods here. The first arrow function, which is the successful one. So the first function, we want to have a return of employees. Okay, my brain is freezing now. So we have 3 methods separated by this one. I remember this one having error. And then a message here. An error has occurred. And then we pass in error here again. Okay, we'll check about that part later, or we say get request was successful. I forgot what we mentioned. Why is it getting... Okay, we should be receiving something. Okay, my brain is freezing, so I cannot tell.
Comes back from the server.
So it's public get employees and it's void. Okay, we forgot to write that it's public get employees and it's void.
The actual employees that we requested, or some kind of an error. And here I'm just gonna specify our response. So I'm gonna say if we get a response back, which is gonna be of type employee array, because that's
okay, yes, that's one thing. In the service.ts, in the get employees, we are getting a return type of employee. But the return type from here is the input to the other method that we have. Get employees here, at least the subscribe part Subscribe is activating the observable here, which is giving response of employee.
That's what it's going to be. Then we're gonna execute. So this is
I forgot to add the array.
And what we want to do is to set this variable that we define up top to be equal to the body of the request, because by default, using an observable, it's just gonna give you whatever response is coming back.
Okay, this is getting confusing. So we have to get employees here, which is of void, so it doesn't return anything because we are saving everything to this part. But we are getting an observable that in order to get the list from it, we need to use subscribe. So the input here will be employees.
Inside of that body of the response. So we can set this equal to response, which is gonna be the list or array of all of our
Wait, can we actually do that? I thought we have to iterate over the array or something. So we are equating an array with another array, and it just
employees. Otherwise, which in this case,
okay, now that's new. In JavaScript, when we equate two arrays to each other, does that mean that all the content is equated? Because that's different than Java, because in Java you have to make a for loop and then iterate over each single one of them. Yes, in JavaScript, when you assign to array to one another, you are not creating a copy of the array, but rather creating a reference to the original array, which means that both arrays will point to the same array in memory. As a result, changes made to one array will also affect the other because they are essentially referring to the same array. I see. When arrays are objects but are treated differently when assigned or passed down due to pass by value and pass by reference rules. Okay. I wouldn't say that's necessarily a thing I hate about JavaScript, but it is weird. Arrays equating each other. I think I've forgotten here, yes.
case of an error, we also have to handle that. So in case we get an error, which is gonna be of type HTTP error.
So you would be getting okay. I see. HTTP error response.
And then we have to import that. So in case it's an HTTP error response, what we want to do is execute a different piece of code. In that case, I can just send an alert or just console log it to the console, and I can just console that error message. So I can just access the error object, and then there's a message that I can access here. So we can just see it as an
okay. So you're accessing the message that we are giving from the backend, which is way better. Okay, that's way better than just having a fixed thing here. Alert. We see a message. Error dot message.
alert. So now we can see that this component will have all the employees in it.
It's still a bit confusing. I think I will need to revise it again tomorrow after my brain just calmed down a bit or something.
Whenever we call this function, so we can use
because the employees is still wrong for some reason. Is it because of the import? I don't think so. Yeah. Okay, we can just copy all. What's wrong with this code? The service name is misspelled. It should be employee service. CSS file URL. Forget about that one. Okay, so it's a misspelling. Where is the misspelling again? Type of an employee service and style URL. The service name is spelled. I think I misspelled it in both. Yes, I did misspell it in both. Employee service. And we should also copy this one here. The response part I haven't done because I haven't understood it that well yet. Which is basically equating the two arrays to each other. This dot employees equal to response. Yes, we need to access it first, but why is the employees wrong? I'm not sure. I don't think it's a typo thing, but I get an error message on the employees array name. Make sure that the employees array is probably initialized at the class. TypeScript might be complaining that employees is not initialized, especially if you have strict null checks enabled. It's because I haven't initialized it. Okay, sure. I mean, you can just make it as an empty. I don't think that's really an issue. Yeah, okay, it was funny. But okay, let's go again for our code. So we created an. What the hell is going on? I forgot how to actually. Yes. Now ng serve again. So I'm not sure what type of error we just got. Anyway, we created an empty array, and then we made the constructor of the service that we created to be able to get access to the get employees here, which is unobservable. So you subscribe to actually start getting the information, and we pass in two information or two methods specifically, one for the response, which is of type employee, that's the return value of the get employee, and we specify what we want to do with that, and then we have an error with the error message we get from the backend. So far so good for now.
This variable inside of the template, because as you can see, it is the template for this specific component, which means it's communicating directly with this component. So we can access this variable inside of this HTML file. So we need to be able to call this function whenever this component is loaded or whenever it's initialized. And one way we can do this is
I still don't understand the element because I don't understand the structure as much.
to just implement an interface called onInit. So I'm going to do implement. It's called onInit.
So yes, explain to me the interface on it. I think it was called.
And then once we
Initialize. I see. On and net the wait. Is an interface that is part of the Angular lifecycle hooks. It is used to define a method that gets executed once after the component inputs are set and the component's view has been initialized. So by calling the component, in the case of the get method that we created, since we want it to work without actually calling it, that's why we added the interface. Did I get that correctly? Not exactly. Interface and the get method created earlier serve different purposes, and using doesn't directly affect one another in terms of calling them functions. Is used on Angular components. I understand. While they don't directly interact. No, that's not actually what I meant. Okay, let's just add this implements on init, and then we need to implement a class, a method.
implement on init, which is coming from Angular core, then we need to override a function called ng on init. So I'm gonna go right below the constructor and I'm gonna do ng on init, and it doesn't take any parameters. And all I have to do now is to call our function inside of this ng on init because it's gonna run whenever this component is initialized. So I can do this, get employees, and that's just the name of our function.
And then you less, okay. I see. So you say ng on init, it's from type void, of course, and then you initialize it dot get employees. Now we ask ChatGPT about this code. That's not what I meant in this code context, since I want the app component which is the root component to get all the tasks for all the employees immediately without calling. I need to use the on it. So you're trying to fetch a list of employees immediately when the root component is loaded without having to manually call the method is somewhere code you. The issue in your code that is inside onIt method, you are not actually calling the discode ID. You are simply referring it, which means it won't execute the logic to fetch the employees. This is just a reference, not a functional call. You are referencing the employees method but not calling it. This is why it isn't fetching the employee data as you expect. You need to call the method inside, and by adding okay, I think I forgot. Yeah, that's my bad actually. I forgot to add the parentheses. Okay, when the onIt Angular automatically calls this life cycle hook, I added the brackets. Does my or is my explanation correct? Is my explanation car backend. Okay, what you are trying to achieve, you want the app component to immediately fetch the list of employees when the application loads, without needing to explicitly call the employees somewhere else in the component. You plan to achieve this by using the getOnIt lifecycle hook, which Angular automatically calls when the component is initialized. You have implemented the onIt interface inside onIt. Your key issue was that you were okay, we forgot that part. We say that we need the parentheses, but yes, your overall explanation is correct. I could have written that from the beginning, but okay.
Down below. So now whenever this component is initial,
so let's revise our code again. We created an empty array, and then we created a constructor of the employee service, and then we made our get method of type void that's getting subscribe, which is to the service that we created, which has already a get method that gives a list of employees, which will be the input of this method. So it feels weird because usually you have the output first and then the input as a syntax in Java, but here is the opposite. You have the output you have the input first and then the output.
it's gonna call this function, and this function in turn is gonna call our function that we just defined down here, and then it's gonna set our employees whenever we get the response back from the server.
Okay,
and if we get an error, then we're just gonna send an alert to show that error to the user. So now I can go into the component where we have all of our HTML, and we don't need all this stuff. This is just the default that came with Angular, and all I want to do.
Getting an error for some reason. It's probably because the HTTP thing isn't working, but it's okay for now.
Now is to just define some div. So I'm going to do div, and inside of this div, I can just use ng4 so that I can loop on all of the actual employees that I'm getting from the backend. So I can just do ng4 and then set this equal to let employee, which is going to be a local variable of employees, which is the variable coming from the actual component.
Okay, I'm not sure about ng4 because I never used it. Explain to me ng4. Is a structural directive in Angular used to loop through an array or a list and dynamically render a set of elements in DOM based on that provided. Okay. In simple terms, ng4 helps you repeat HTML elements for each item in the array. I have seen them. Now for the syntax. ng4 let item of items, the content that will be repeated for each items. Let item, this is the alias you use to refer each individual element of the array. So in our case, it's let employee of employees. Employees is probably the name of the array. Yes. So if you have fruits, so you have let fruits. Okay, see. And then you can use that name later to access the single ones.
So then it's gonna,
and it should be dev. I should probably run the local host that we have to check if it's working or not, but we forget and we act as we didn't see nothing for now. We say ng4 let employee of employees.
gonna loop over every single one of those employees and save each one of them in a variable called employee. So inside that div, then I can go ahead and create another div, and then let's say I want to display the name of the employee, so I can do string interpolation,
and you can call employee.id
access the local variable employee, and then I can do .name. As you can see, I
or
have
ID,
intelligence
yes.
because I
So make another div. Yeah, div should be. Actually, let's I got this up so bad, but let's say div. Should probably do it as a signal. Employee dot does not exist on type app component. Did you mean employees?
define the type as an interface in the application, so I can access the name.
Sure. The app component, we don't have anything that's called employee. Okay, we need to check if there's any naming that we did falsely. We have app components, we have the array is of type employee. I have the method called get employees.
It doesn't take any parameters. I'm gonna run the name of our function down below. So now whenever this employees, whenever should I don't need all this stuff, so I have a local variable of employees, which is the side that div, then I can go ahead and do .name the application. Just this div here. Remove this extra. So that's very simple. I just want to show you.
For some reason, it's not working though. Employee does not exist on type app component. Did you mean employees? But we don't want to name the employees because that's the array. Okay, my debugging tool here. The employee is error card. Caused by the missing RSAs before the ng4. Was there? I don't think there was there. Okay, yeah, there was. Syntax issues, I see. Okay, now it says let end employees. So you have the two keywords here. And this is the name of the array that exists inside the app component. Okay, and this, it seems like this is an enhanced for loop, like the one we see in Java. But instead of using the typing, they just use let. Yes, so this is literally the enhanced for loop that we have.
You guys, what we get back from the actual server. And there's one last thing to do is to just go back. You can see the employee service. We have to specify the actual URL, which is localhost 8080. So the way I want to do this is to go into the environment folder. And inside of the environment folder, we have two files here. There's one environment configuration file for production.
Okay, he did leave the string empty, so he says environment. Do we have an environment folder? Not that I remember, but
and one for development. So we're gonna put this in our development because right now we're on localhost, so we're using.
we should have an assets and we should have environment. Angular VS Code, the public main server, package readme, all that. Okay. No, we need. Is it inside the source? We have assets here even, but okay. Environment. And he has environment.ts.
Doing for development, as you can see, production is false on this one. For production, you can see production is true here. So we're not using this because we're not going into production yet. but we're gonna use the one for development. So I'm gonna go back into the environment for development, and then here I'm just gonna pass in a new attribute to this, and it's gonna be just API base URL. You can just give this any name you want. I'm gonna set this equal to our URL, which is http://localhost, and that's 8080. And this is the URL for the server for our backend. So now
maybe because it's 4 years old, but export const environment yes. So we say export environment okay, it's const. We'll check why we wrote it like this after we actually write it, and check nothing is wrong. We have here production, false, API is URL, HTTP localhost 8080. First of all, let's code the bases first. So this one is wrong. And no, there is no semicolon at the end.
we can access this
But there is
URL
here.
using our variable. So
interesting. It's not an equal. Not sure what's the environment thing is about.
But let's go back into the employee service. So here, instead of empty string, we can just call the environment, which is down here. And then we can just access the API.
Why though? In fire. Yes. Dot. Why do we need to create an environment folder with this code? Used located in the source environment directory in Angular project is used to manage and store configuration values that might differ between development and production environments. This is important for so it's for product, not production, but testing, not testing, development. It's important for flexible and maintaining why use environment folder, separation of configuration. Okay, so for the development we use this one, and that's why he said one for false and one for true. Indicates that the app is running in a development environment. Okay, so because we are using this on development, we will be using that one, but if we're using this one, we'll be having the environment here as const. Yes. Okay, I get the picture, but still, because in the development we are running it on the local host, but here we will be running on a different URL. But I need to know more about the production attribute here. It certainly makes it switching between the development environment and the production environment very easy. But what is that attribute? Yes, production attribute do or me. In Angular's environment configurations, like environment.ts, and environment is a flag that helps Angular determine. So Angular already knows that if a folder is called environment, it is a flag. The production attribute is a boolean, true or false, that it indicates whether the app is running in production or okay. How does Angular identifies that app is in production or development? Based on the build configuration used or running the package, the process of Angular CLI and how it differentiates between the development build. Okay, using Angular CLI, provide a system, use tool, key build configuration, ng server or ng build. Production configuration, it's used explicitly command with environment file replacement. Angular uses environment file to store configuration setting for different environments. There are typically two main files. It should be in the source, yes, I thought so also. So it's within the source, we have the environment, and that's how how Angular differentiates between production when you run ng serve for development, ng build. Okay, I see.
API based URLs. So Visual Studio Code is importing everything for me, but you really have to make sure that you're importing everything, and you have to make sure that all the packages are coming from the right place. Like HTTP clients coming from HTTP, from Angular coming to HTTP, and observers coming from RxJS. So now we have access to our base URL here. And one last thing we have to do to configure the service is to let the entire Angular application app know about the service. So we're doing this here by injecting it here and then saying provided in root, which is the root component of our app. In that case, that would be this component right here, this module. So if we don't have this, then we have to register this service as a provider in here. So you would go here and then say employee service like this.
I
Okay?
don't
So
get that
you
one.
either do it like this, just by saying provided in root, or you just do it manually in here like this. So now our service is configured and the entire Angular application is aware of it. And we can go ahead and give this a try.
Can we? I mean, I don't have the backend already
go
configured, so but that confirms the fact that I need to do the backend first before the front end.
Then start the front end application, and then we're gonna check it out in the browser. So I'm gonna go to View and then open.
But I do have the IntelliJ working with tasks. So
Open View. I want to open the terminal panel, and I'm just gonna do ng serve, and I'm gonna let this come up. Now also make sure the backend is running. So my backend is running since this is being
yes,
called
that's what I was going to.
You have to make sure that the
That's what I was going to say. You need to make sure also the backend is working.
backend is running as well. And as you can see here, my backend is.
Well, I mean, we can fast speed the backend later, but I want to do the other part. So we are now connected the two backend, the front end and the backend, the two endpoints, sorry. But now we are missing the actual front end still.
So let's wait for this to come up. Front end application running on this to the main application class.
I will check on that part after I finish the backend, but I should probably skip to the UI.
App looks like this. And the UI that I'm going to be using is at this website, bootday.com. So if you navigate to this URL, you'll land onto this page and you can see this snippet that you can use. And you can use it under a free MIT license. As you can see here, permission is granted free of charge to any person obtaining a copy of the software, blah, blah, blah. So you can use this template or snippet. And if you scroll down a little bit, you'll see the HTML code for it. So you can just copy that to your clipboard and then paste it wherever you need to.
Even better.
And here's the custom CSS styling for this. So this whole snippet is using Bootstrap, but there's a little bit of custom styles that you need, and that's down here. And you can just copy it to your clipboard and then paste it to your style.
Okay, what was the website called again?
And if you scroll this software, blah blah blah, as you can see here, permit snippet L.
Bootdays.com. Bootday.com. I think it was this one.
You land onto this page and you can see.
Actually, the HTML part and the CSS part, we will do it after we get a bit of taste of Angular, because it's either doing Angular or doing HTML and CSS. Not even HTML, just styling in general. Okay, this one seems a bit different. User card profile with button and photo. Yeah, I think it's that one. We just have the phone and email there. No. What's the name of that thing? Contact cards, okay. The beta pricing thing, forget about that for now. Chat, the dashboard.
This
The quality of the video is a bit off, so I need to higher it up a bit. And we say contact cards. Contact cards. Probably this one. Nope. This one. Yes, it's this one.
snippet that you can.
So maybe I should search some website that can give me CSS styling and HTML styling, just to be able to focus on the Angular part, at least for now. Because at least once I get used to Angular, it will be one less step to focus on.
And you can use it. It's under a free MIT license, as you can see here. Permission user browse granted free of charge.
But after that, I think the model logic that we need to use, and then the testing comes after.
To any person obtain a copy of the software, blah blah blah. So you can use this template or snippet. And if you scroll down a little bit, you'll see the HTML code for it. So you can just copy that to your clipboard and then paste it wherever you need to.
Okay.
And here's the custom CSS styling for this. So this whole snippet is using Bootstrap, but there's a little bit of custom styles that you need, and that's down here. And you can.
But I'm curious how he will use it with Angular. Especially the functions. For example, he won't make like 3 separate divs. He will probably create like what, an ng4 and make a loop towards each one of them, but I'm not sure how we will do it yet.
Just copy it to your clipboard and then paste it to your style. So I'm gonna go ahead and paste the HTML code for this along with the CSS, and then I'm gonna import Bootstrap into the project as well. So if you don't know what Bootstrap is, obviously I'm assuming you guys know what it is. It's a
CSS library.
It's a framework that's
framework. Wait, what's the difference between a framework and a library? Actually, finish the subscribe. Framework versus library. Bootstrap. But before using any framework, really, I want to be able to use at least custom, not custom, plain CSS.
Extremely popular. You can just Google Bootstrap and then you'll see what it is. And there's like tons of resources online that you can use to learn it. So let's go ahead and make our app look pretty. I'm gonna go to the application and I need to go to the template. So I'm gonna go to the template and I'm gonna remove all of this and then paste the code for the snippet that I just showed you. So I'm gonna paste it. I'm gonna close that for now. And then I need to bring in everything for Bootstrap and the custom style. So I'm gonna go to the style for this app. So scroll down to the bottom, you will see this
So
file
that's the
called
global style,
style.css.
yes.
And then in there, you can import style, like you can import a CDN, or you can just add custom styling or whatever CSS styles that you want. So I'm gonna go back to the website and scroll down. I need to copy this. So I'm gonna copy it, go back and paste it. I don't think we're using this body here, but I'm just gonna leave it anyways. And then I need to import Bootstrap because this is powered by Bootstrap and this part is only the custom CSS styling for this. So we need to import Bootstrap as well. So I'm gonna go up here and
How
then
can you make
paste
that?
the Bootstrap link along with the Font Awesome CDN so that we can have access to the little.
It's the same though. It's the same way as we tried to import the Tailwind CSS last time.
Icons that we saw. So now if we go back and I'm gonna zoom out and close this for now, you can see we have this navigation bar and then we have this card right here, which is the same card as this one. We just haven't put in all the information on it yet, but it's the same card. So I'm gonna walk you through the template a little bit. So let's go back to the app and I'm gonna collapse this, close this style, and I'm gonna scroll up. So at the top, I have a navigation. So as you can see from line 1 to line 16, this is the whole nav bar. And then I have a form here. So this is this form right here. Search an employee, which is this form from line 12 to line 14. And then I have a button right here. And it's this button right here. So I can click it. Well, I can't click it now because it's not going to do anything. But this is the button, which is add employee. So what I want to do is to loop over these cards and then create as many cards as I need for every single employee. So let's go back to the app, and the same way that we did earlier when we were just showing the names of the employee, we can do something similar. So I'm gonna go up here, and as you can see here,
There is a lot of this.
we have the cards right here. So from line 20 to line 40, that's just the card information with the buttons on it and everything.
Okay.
So I can just go here in the element above.
But actually, before we continue, we might as well just do that also. That's the HTML code. Not sure why it has copy here, not just sorry, download, not just copy. Now this one. And then we will go to the global CSS. Then we add this file. See. But we also need to import the CSS bootstrap. Okay, that's how you import it. You just don't need to install bootstrap version included with CDN. I think I'll go with this one for now. We need another shell because I think the one is a bit older. That's why. But now, how do you even read on installation, docs, compile, source, via deliver, just serif, script. Okay, we need to check how to install Bootstrap on. Okay, this is, I think this is the link that was specified here. Link href, and then we have this one. Which I think, yes, it's different because this one seems a bit old. think we also need just copy this one and delete this line and add this. Still seem to have an error somewhere. What do you mean unrecognized? Just a link. And it's just a name also. I mean, if you don't like it, I'll just delete it then. Because there seems to be an issue with that. There still seems to be an error somewhere. Yes, that's a bit better view. I still am not able to see the line of error. Yes, we have Gmail here. The ad for some reason is making some errors. That's it. I'm not sure if it's working though or not. Let's check the error. And as always, it will still make an error. I'm not sure what's this error for. Not sure if this error is because there's no backend. What's the cause of this error? Here's that HTTP client, but when it tries to inject the HTTP service, the HTTP client is able to make HTTP request in Angular and is error due not providing HTTP module. The error cause dependency injection is unable to resolve to find the solution to fix. You need to import HTTP client module in your. Oh, okay, I see. It's because we are missing an import, of course. Still mentioning an error for some reason. Imports. I don't think it's meant through here. We also need to import it here. Sorry. Client model HTTP client. Nope, not that one. Module. Don't think that solved the issue. In which folder did you want us to import it actually? Export app module. Do we have a place called app module? I don't think so also. Main.ts, don't think so. Server, bootstrap, okay. My app. How many sources do we have? Okay, that's another project. That's my app project. Okay, back to the component. I thought it was inserted into the component, but I don't think so. In which file should I import? In the app module.ts. I don't have an app module.ts. I have app roots, app configuration. app module. Nope. Nope. Also nope. We have app roots, but not. I don't have an app module. App.module. I don't have app.module. Yes. Okay. In this case, you want to configure in the standalone component. Import HTTP client module. I think I already tried to do that. And we need to import. But the error will still show, I know that for sure. How about I actually control our print screen and then we open it. And then let's save this one on the desktop so that I remember to delete it. And then try to insert it here. But we probably need to log in. Let's go with this one. Explain to me this error. Again, I don't have app dot module. Open your main.ts and add this import. So it's inside the main this time. Okay, let's delete this one. And we want to add these imports. Where are the imports? Which imports though? Or inside the app. We did try to do it inside the app component, but we did import that one. HTTP client. Probably will do this one. Bootstrap application app configure providers. I'm not sure about that part, but okay, let's try. Cannot find any provider. Okay, no. I think it's probably just because our server is probably not running, that's why. Okay, we'll try to do our ng serve again. Unexpected error we get at the end of the day. error, null injector. Okay. Service.ts, injectable, provide in root. And I think the guy mentioned about angular.json package type config. I think in the video it was mentioned that we have to include the root thing in the place, but I'm not sure where are we getting that. Null injector provided. The Angular is unable to inject the HTTP client because HTTP model is not provided. That's not the answer. Okay, let me just get back to the video.
And it looks like we get an error.
Toward the Angular component part.
Employee deleted a variable that's gonna.
Because I do remember him saying that we need to add it to a certain folder, the root thing. This will take a while. This is for the environment. App module.ts. We don't have an app module.ts, that's the thing. Inside the app.module.ts. That's the thing with doing it with a very old tutorial. We don't have an app module, but there should be a replacement for it. App.server, app config. My brain is too foggy for me to be able to fix that error. Okay, maybe we'll try having this on YouTube.
Video shows how to solve the following error when you have an Angular application like this one, and whenever you call a site page where there is where there is an HTTP client, then you get the error
6-month-old, okay.
when I open it, then you see this error on there, which says error null injector error R3 injector error something else.
Yes.
No provider for HTTP client. So this happens when you have when you migrate your application to standalone. So this is version 14.14. Then you should do the following. You have no module app anymore here.
Yes, exactly.
There is no mod app module.ts because it's the version 14. You see it also in here. Whenever you have the standalone in your component, then you don't have the module anymore. So what we do is we go to app config, and in app config
at least we do have this one, yes.
you allow you import the provide HTTP client in there, and you also embed it here in config app config.
Provide HTTP client. Let me just copy it from here. And then we add it to where?
In application. So when I
Provide HTTP client. Then providers. It seems like I'm having a lot of providers actually here. there's a semicolon, so we need to add a semicolon here, and we say provide HTTP client. Provide HTTP so we save that part. But it still shows something weird. Provide HTTP client, just HTTP client, forget about the rest. And now let's try to rerun the app again. Okay, different type of error at least. HTTP failure. Okay. Oh. So this error was because of an older version, because the app module that you are using. Okay, that's the thing with using framework, they are constantly changing, so okay, that's an issue that was taken care of. So since we finished the connection to the backend, I should tomorrow make it a challenge to me to try to do the backend for it without actually seeing the video. I'll try to do it a new project for the employee service, employee backend in general, and we will see if it's connected correctly to the front end. As for the designing part and all that stuff, we will do that later. But for now, I think that will be it. These things will not be for tomorrow, but will be for just doing it general. But we will try to make a new project tomorrow. Since me doing my own project is good and everything, but at least I need to check how other people do their project also to see what is the best practice to do things. So that's how we will leave it for today actually, and see you guys next time.